What up? What up? I am back again. It's your boy Vinny Dangerous, and you are tuning in to the fourth episode of the Dangerous Minds podcast. Now, before I go any further, I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody, a huge shout out and a huge thank you to everybody that's been tuning in to the podcast every week. I started this podcast 4 weeks ago, and from day one, I've been getting a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback. Looking at the numbers, and it seems that our audience is growing. More and more people are tuning in to the podcast every week, so I really appreciate that. Just wanted to get that out there before I get things started. Now, for this episode, I've decided to fly solo because I have a lot to say about the topic that I'm going to discuss. It's very touchy subject, and I didn't want to disrespect or talk over a co-host, because that's just not something I want to do. So I've decided to fly solo on this one, and today I want to talk about the second biggest scapegoat in America today, just behind the black community, hip-hop. Now, there's been a lot of things going on in the news lately, a lot of crazy stuff, like the tragedy in Orlando, and, some inspirational stuff. The biggest hot button from this past week, the BET Awards and the speech that Jesse Williams gave once he received his humanitarian award, at the show. And the speech was powerful. It got a lot of people talking. It's caught the attention of Fox, apparently, because whatever that chick's name is, I don't want to give her no fame. I just know that she's a very ignorant white woman, but she even talked about it, touched on it, so it's got a lot of traction. And one thing that she's done with her little rant, like I've seen a lot of different people doing, whether it's on blogs, magazines, on the internet, and other various platforms, is a lot of people have been taking the words from that speech and using them and twisting the words around to have them mean something different, or, use them as a device to further whatever cause, or movement or anything like that, to further their agenda, whether it correlates with what he had to say or not. And, to connect the two, I've noticed that, those same people, there have been some people that have used it as a device, or used those events as a device to further their crusade to demonize hip-hop. Not just rap music, but hip-hop as a culture, as a lifestyle. Pretty much all the founding, growing blocks that I was raised on, and a lot of my generation was raised on. And it's nothing new. I call hip-hop the second biggest scapegoat in the world, not just in America, but the world, because the demonization of hip-hop has been going on for years. Ever since, people started to realize that it wasn't just some little fad that was coming out of the ghettos in New York, that it was actually a global phenomenon waiting to happen. And people saw the influence coming, and it took over the world in rapid time, and people have been trying their best to just paint this ugly picture of what hip-hop really is and means. And this episode is actually inspired by an article that I read on Complex.com, the official website for Complex Magazine. First of all, I love Complex.com. When I'm in my day job and things are slow at work, I'm in front of a computer, I don't really have much things to do at the moment, I'll pull up their site. They have a lot of informative stuff, funny, kind of weird articles, but they're entertaining at the end of the day. And that's pretty much what, the goal is, I guess, to get people reading and leave them entertained. But this one particular article was written by one of their writers, Mr. Stephen Horowitz. And the article is called How... Wait a minute. Let me pull it up. I want to make sure I get this right. How homophobic is hip hop in 2016? And the article starts off innocent enough. It talks about it, references Kanye West Sway interview from like back, I think they said 2005. And he sat down on MTV with Sway to talk about homophobia in hip hop. And I'm not going to sit here and say that homophobia isn't a big problem in hip hop. I mean, it still is a big problem in hip hop. It's a lot better than what it was 10 years ago. I mean, this interview happened 11 years ago. It's much better than it was from the time that Kanye had this interview to now. It still has its problems, but it's getting better. But, okay, just to move on with the article starts off innocent enough with that paraphrasing of Kanye's interview, and it rang a lot of truths, and that's why it's, very powerful interview. If you have the time, I'll go, not just that part, but the whole interview in itself is really dope. But the article starts to derail from there. So bringing that up to now, and he uses the Orlando shooting that happened not too long ago as a example of, seeing how homophobic is hip hop still, saying that hip hop is homophobic is as it's ever been, because a lot of rappers decided to stay silent on Twitter. And I'm thinking he's going to say more. There's going to be more to this. But no, it's not. It is just, they didn't tweet about it. And at that point, I had to laugh a little bit, because I know Twitter's a big thing now. People tweet about everything. But an artist deciding not to tweet about the Orlando shootings does not constitute, I said that all wrong, does not justify your argument that hip hop is homophobic as it's always been. As it's always been. He named off rappers like Jay-Z, Kanye West, Beyonce, Eminem, Tyler the Creator, Chance the Rapper, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and who was else? He mentioned Kid Cudi. He gave Kid Cudi a shout out for saying something, and he's being very vocal. He's been very vocal about homophobia in hip hop, but he named those rappers in particular. He also named Nicki Minaj, and Nicki Minaj was even called out for not doing it, because she's an example of somebody that may have been warranted, because she has a huge gay fan base. She even tried to say that she was bisexual at one point in her career. So for her, to be very silent, and she was even blocking people for saying something about it, saying something to her or mentioning her about it, which I thought that was funny. I was like, wow, damn. You hear about celebrities and stuff, they don't really run their Twitter accounts that much. So a lot of the times they have someone else in the office, picking up their phone or on the computer, tweeting out when and where they got events or when a song's coming out or whatever piece of news is attached to them. So that was the first thought I had that was the second thought I had when I read this article, was that what if they don't control their Twitter accounts? I saw Beyonce before her new album came out this year. She hadn't sent out a tweet since 2012. There's been a lot of tragedies and events like the Paris incident that happened not too long ago this year or late last year, or the many, 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 many killings of unarmed African Americans like Sandra Bland or Freddie Gray or Mike Brown. They've all happened between 2012 and 2016. But you've decided to call her out about this one particular incident. And, for one, she doesn't represent hip-hop. She represents R&B and pop music. But it just sounded stupid to me that they didn't tweet when you felt like they needed to tweet. Because this article came out that Wednesday on, what was June 23rd? The article was posted June 23rd. It was probably written before then. No, it was that Thursday after. So it didn't even give it time to really give people a chance to say anything. I mean, I know it's been a few days, but they're pretty active. If there was no tweet activity like that, other than probably some shit that's scheduled on Hootsuite or TweetDeck or something like that to post out accomplishments and events and all this other stuff, they might have not even been near the phone or near the computer. Anyway, so the article continues, and the article decides to talk about the rappers that did say something. Talked about T.I. and Styles P. and let me pull this up. I just want to make sure I get everybody. Common, of all people. These people decided to speak out. And, you know, but then this person proceeds to say that, oh yeah, you said, you know, pray for Orlando, or God bless the victims of the shooting in Orlando. And then you turn around and you say that, oh, well, were you praying for gay people when you said this in your lyric 5-6 years ago? Did you think about gay people when you wrote this down? When you wrote this, you wrote that. And fuck you. How are you going to contradict yourself like that? So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Either you say something and people are going to bring up your history of what you might have done or might have said. Listen, it's been very recent that people have started to accept the fact that, hey, it's not a choice that people are gay. It's something that they may or may not have been born with. That hasn't been brought to the light. I mean, that wasn't brought to the light up until recently. And these songs are older. These lyrics and songs that he is trying to, you know, condemn them for came out way before then. So it was just like, come on, man, really? And then I looked up and I found like maybe 4 or 5 different articles talking about hip hop from this guy, and it's just like, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and call him a hip hop hater. Who knows? He might be a true blue fan of hip hop. But the fact that, you know, you don't write anything but negativity. If he happens to hear this, I want him to send me some, because I'll admit if I'm wrong, but everything, the first 4 articles that I bring up from you have been something demonizing hip-hop, talking bad about the state of hip-hop in a way that is so traditional for the media to do. I mean, Complex Magazine is a hip-hop magazine, but it's still a media device. Their website is a form of media, and media as a whole, majority of media, I'm not going to say everybody in media, but majority of media, that has pretty much been their agenda when it comes to hip-hop. Hip-hop is frowned upon because they decide to take a short list of the artists that these record companies, these sponsors, these radio stations decide to present to the world as this is what hip-hop is, and this is the only thing that hip-hop is. You know, people that are within the hip-hop community know that that's just a small fraction of what hip-hop is and the messages that we convey in our music. You know, hip-hop has been accused of a lot of things. It's been accused of inspiring violence, it's inspiring disrespect towards women, you know, disrespect and, you know, homophobic behaviors, you know, in the lyrics and the songs and everything. And this notion is ridiculous. Like, I want to ask you something. When you think about people like the Columbine shooting or the crazy motherfucker that shut up them elementary school kids in Sandy Hook, or think about ISIS. Do you really think that they riding out to the latest hip hop song that's out right now? I don't think so. I mean, hip hop does have its influence. We've influenced fashion. We've influenced, a whole way of life. And I'm gonna say we because I am a proud member of the hip hop community. It made me the man I am today. And I'll be damned if people are going to sit here and sit on a pedestal and they're going to sit up and they're going to look down on who I am as a person. Because if you're talking about hip hop, you're talking about who I am. That's point blank, period. But I just want to know that when these people do their, media broadcast and they write their articles, do they research hip hop? I mean, the objectifying of women. Let's talk about that. So, in the Jesse Williams speech, he spoke about, giving praise to black women. And, one of the main things that I saw being hurled around when it comes to hip hop is, the demonization of hip hop brought up, with that one line or that one, section of his speech when he decided to give that praise to black women. Like that, you're not going to sit here and tell me that 100% of the rappers, and myself included, have done nothing but, objectify and disrespect and, come off misogynistic in their music. You can go through my entire catalog as an example. I've never called a woman a bitch in my songs. Not once. You could pull up any song that I've ever written, and it's something that I will continue to do. So, and there's so many other rappers like that. There's been like that since the beginning. And, there's a good and a bad. Hip hop messages are influenced by the environments that these artists come from. And the negative side of things is just put, in this very shallow, like they look at it very shallow. They listen to it from a shallow surface. They don't really look at it from what it is and where it comes from. Your child is doing bad in school. He's disrespecting his mom and he's cussing people out. He's calling women bitches. You got a little boy doing that and you blame it on hip hop. I've listened to all that stuff. I listened to Common. I listened to Talib Kweli growing up. I listened to The Roots. I listened to Tupac. And Tupac is a perfect example of both sides of the spectrum. Because on one hand, he'll give you, I Get Around. Then he'll turn around and give you Brenda's Got a Baby. He can give you How Do You Want It? And then he can turn around and give you Keep Your Head Up. And I feel like that's a perfect representation of hip-hop. Hip-hop is about a balance. Hip-hop is about what life means to us as a person. And then we use our personal experiences, we use our, things we've seen, the things that we've experienced, and we put that into music. Now, when you say hip-hop is violent, I say America's violent. I mean, there's been so many tragedies that have nothing to do with hip-hop. I bet if I pull up the murder rate of people getting killed while they have a hip-hop CD in their car, I really don't think it's going to measure up. Because, I mean, for one, the biggest killers in this country are the police. And those are the same people that turn around and use hip-hop, the people that are influenced by hip-hop as their target practice. So, for you to sit there and say that hip-hop is violent is bullshit. Where are the parents in all of this? I mean, I listen to the music. I've never had a desire to go out and kill somebody. I've never had a desire to go out and disrespect a woman just because this song told me that bitches ain't shit. I mean, it's the same shit you see in movies. But what do you do when your child is acting out or wilding out or something like that? You sit them down and you talk to them and you say that that's not what it is. It's just entertainment. A movie is entertainment. Scarface is meant to be entertainment. Nobody's telling actors that they need, or actors or the producers or the directors or the people that write the scripts, they don't tell those people that you need to have a message when you put this out, or you have to, tone down the violence. And there's nobody outside of the movie theater telling you that this movie is too violent for you. They're the same people that will turn around and tell you hip hop is violent and it inspires violence and it's the reason why people go out and do the things they do maliciously. They will be the same ones that will go see the new action flick or the new murder movie, or those are the same people, and you're not protesting them. Hip hop is the main one that gets the bad rep when it comes to these things. I mean, you don't, when it comes to the misogyny and everything like that, like, hip hop has made strides. I mean, it's still in the lyrics, but you don't see it in the videos as much. The videos that were frontline and center were the ones that had 50 butt naked women. They had the Nelly tip drill video, and now we have videos that maybe have one or two girls that are fully clothed, or you might have one or two girls that may be a little claddily dressed, but they're not. It's not too much of it going on. And the biggest hip hop artists, the ones that are selling the most in 2015, were Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar. So the ones that have the people's ear are the ones that don't even represent the hip hop that you still continue to try to beat over to their head. Like, you tried to tell people that hip hop is so wrong. And it's bullshit. I want anybody to try to challenge me on this. Hip hop has got done better and made strides when it comes to sex, violence, misogyny, homophobia. It has made strides. You can't deny that. But the thing is, there's always been positive hip hop. There's always been positive message. There's always been uplifting music about women, about stopping the violence. It's been like that from the beginning of time. The problem is that you're looking at the artists, you're looking at the people putting out the music, as far as like producing the music and writing the songs, but you're not ready to challenge the record labels, the radio stations, the people that decide what goes out and what doesn't. Like, I don't understand why I can turn on a radio station like the one here in Durham, or the one in Fayetteville, the one in New York, the one in Florida, Texas, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Seattle, Washington. You could turn on a hip-hop radio station and you hear the same shit. It may be more custom to the sounds of their region, but believe me, the same messages are the ones that are getting primarily played. If you're not, like I said, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Wale, if you're not those artists, and they might put out a song, within months of each other. The songs that are getting repeated are the ones that that influence and promote drugs, violence, misogyny, and all the other stuff, and they're not even selling records. You pull up their sound scan report and how many records they sold, and then you put them next to Drake, they get embarrassed every time. You put them up against Kendrick and J. Cole, they don't have the same influence that they have. When it comes, you can see it. It's evident. So when you try to say that hip hop is this and that, you just don't really have an argument, because there's so many things going against you. Like, the government is the problem. The television is the problem. The fact that there's no real supervision of what content gets fed to your child, by the parents, that is the problem. Hip hop may have its faults, but it's not the end all be all problem to what's going on here. And I just wanted to speak my piece on it. Man, it's been a lot, and I thought I had more to say, but this went from being a podcast to a rant for the most part. Yeah. I'm passionate about this. Some of the greatest messages that I've ever come across in my life came from a hip hop song. Like just like I talked about with Tupac. Tupac talked about how beautiful women are, and he talked about how yes they going through some shit. When Jesse Williams said that as a race of men, not even just black men, but just race of men in this country, we need to do better. Beside women, I agree with that. He didn't say rappers. He didn't say black men. He said men. We need to do better, and I respect that and I support that 100%. And then it turned into a, hey, why don't we protest and talk bad about when something like that happens? Why don't we talk about how movies do this depiction of men and women? Because let's be honest, these songs are getting played in the club. These songs are the ones that are put out front and center because they are being supported by women. I mean, you can't sit there and say that, you can't demonize men and the music for what they say about women and then turn around and shake your ass to the new Future record and he ain't saying nothing but disrespectful shit. See, this is the thing. I see it all the time. Women, I've seen it, and it's not just women, and it's not all women, but, a very vocal majority of the women that decide to say things like that usually date these guys. Like the one, all bitches ain't shit bitches ain't shit is a song Dr. Dre wrote back in 1992, and the whole mantra that niggas ain't shit either is just as stupid. I just wanted to say that because you can't sit there and talk shit about the men that listen to these songs that are, may have that kind of attitude or whatever towards you or do the things he does and then say that you love the new song that kind of teaches that. I know I just sat here and I talked about how hip-hop doesn't just promote that negativity, but the music that is presented as the most popular does do that. And I will agree with that. But it still gets requested by women that feel that way. So I just wanted to say that a little bit. This is going to be a shorter episode. I might knock it off by a minute because I've already said what I needed to say. Mr. Horowitz, do better. Complex Magazine, do better. Media, do better. Men and women that have these things to say. Oprah Winfrey, Bill Cosby, do better. It's funny how, hip-hop had your back, Bill Cosby, when all of your rape allegations were coming to the light and people were really steadily taking you down. Hip-hop had your back. So I just wanted to, put that out there. I hope you learned your lesson. I want the elders to do better. I want the people to do better. And I want you to take responsibility. Because that's what it all kind of boils down to. You have to take responsibility. And you can't put it off on somebody else. You can't put it off solely on something else. Because the problems are vast. And there are a number of problems. And there are a number of reasons. Hip-hop isn't the only reason. So that has been the Dangerous Minds Podcast, episode 4. What I want people to do is send me comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you agree or disagree. And make sure you tune in next Sunday for the 5th episode of the Dangerous Minds Podcast when I talk to product of the 90s, a local clothing line here in Durham, and we discuss the things they have going on. So, good night. It's been your boy, Vinny Dangerous, and we out.